Hello, my sweet friend, and welcome to the Little Reader's House. I am the Little Reader, your humble host, also known as Amanda. I've got my assistant here with me as I joggle the camera, so hey, work on that, man. No, I'm just kidding. Assistant's doing a great job. This is a serpentine rock. It's holding down the fort. I like to use these gorgeous stones, or let them use me rather, as little talismans. So if you are into that sort of thing, signs, symbols, synchronicities, as you probably would be around here, if you dwell in this area often, you might look up serpentine and see if it vibes with you at this time. We are talking today in this brand new series called Tuesday Masterclass about an excellent topic, manifestation. I'll let you know right off the bat, dearie, because I've got to share this with someone. My assistant's being not too talkative today. I got to share this with someone. I just filmed 35 minutes of bliss on this masterclass, and then due to some technical difficulties, I'm starting over. So that puts us in this awesome position where I get to synthesize it all down. Take out all the excess and leave you with nothing but the gems. So, let's do this thing. I recommend a hot drink. I already finished mine. Intake 1. A pen, a paper, and an open mind, my love. I think that if you took some deep breaths and you settled down and dropped the shoulders and just relaxed into the moment, and let me, your humble host, do all the talking, do all the heavy lifting, do all the transmitting, and just let it wash over you. I think that if you do that, you might have a heaven of a good time. Just a thought. This is going to be some life-changing shit. I'm just going to put it out there, in a real tactful and graceful way. Life-changing shit. So, enjoy. First things first. What is manifestation? Well, it's the number one most marketed topic in the self-help community. I can tell you that. But it's always marketed as a process. And we'll talk a little bit about processes because there's an element to that that's legit. We'll cover it today. But I want to talk about it as a phenomenon. So the process part is for you to understand how you dance with manifestation. The phenomenon is to understand the universal occurrence of manifestation. Manifestation is the nature of this universe. Our earth, all the people on it, all the animals, all the plants, all the inanimate and inanimate were manifested. It means that they came from non-form into form. That's the phenomenon of manifestation. Bringing what is not formed into form. That's it, kids. You can go home. Good talk. Now, it's that simple. I was manifested. Right now, I'm in the process of being physical. Damn it, one day I won't be. Pisser of a vibe. But you know what? It's the facts. I was manifested into form, and I'll be manifested back out of it before we know it. Same goes for most of us. Depends on how much money you have. No, I'm just kidding. Brian Johnson, I'm looking at you, bud. It's all happening all the time. Manifestation doesn't just happen once. To be alive is to be a manifestation and a manifestor simultaneously. You are manifesting effortlessly at all times. Let me explain how. So point 1, manifestation is bringing the non-formed into form. Boom. That already happened to you. You're manifested. You're a manifestation. Whose? It's a good question. You then have the ability to manifest. You can manifest. It's a process of both heart and mind. The heart sends out a frequency, not really intelligible if we were to listen to it. It's sound. If you put your spiritual ears on and you get deep into meditation, or you even sample some psychedelics, don't ask how I know, you can actually perceive the sounds and begin to understand them as knowings, as feelings. But for many of us, the frequencies that are being emitted by the heart, we don't really know about those for most of us. Humans are expanding and evolving all the time, so consciousness is becoming ever more expansive. Human vessels are becoming ever more sensitive. That's changing. Revisit this in 5 years. It could be wrong. But as of today, February 25th, 2025, most of us can't hear our heart's frequency. Those of us who can have deep permeating knowings and deep feelings about things. They're more interested in manifesting a felt experience than a visual one. But for the majority of humans at this time, it is a two-part process. The heart sends out its frequency, which has gone largely unnoticed by most people. They're too busy, there's a lot going on, the sensitivity hasn't been turned up to the max setting. It's all good. But the mind does its job of picking up that frequency, coming out of the heart, and refining it into symbols. And that's where we get desires, baby. The symbols that the mind gives to the heart's frequency are entirely dependent on the individual. And baby, if you've ever felt any shame for ever wanting anything in your life, we gotta drop that shit right now. Because every desire helps to expand human consciousness. So let's take away judgments like, oh, that's so superficial. That's not sacred enough. That's not holy enough. That's not, coded to my character, what I am trying to be. That's not something they would want, so I can't want that. Drop it. Go authentic, baby. It will actually be the most expedient way to expand your consciousness because you'll manifest much faster. You'll get over whatever it is that you wanted much faster, and then you'll move on much faster. What you resist persists. I find that to be a relatively reliable law in this universe. So, depending on the individual, their mind will filter through and interpret that frequency into various things. I'll give you an example. Well, let's take one person. One person's heart is emitting the desire for love. The desire for love. Okay. In their 20s, based on their karma, if you believe in that sort of thing, their trauma, if you believe in that sort of thing, their ancestral heritage, their nature and their nurture, all of these factors working together, genetics, environment, lived experience. This person in their 20s, the way that their mind interprets love is through material acquisitions and through the validation of people that they want to be like one day. So in their 20s, this person is seeking love. That's what the frequency their heart is giving out is, I want love. But their mind has put these filters over it. Love comes in the form of car, spouse, or sexy arm partner. What do they call that? Like when you have like a sexy lover, arm candy. Yes, thank you. Penthouse, good job, lots of money, and validation from the social circle that they really want to cement their position in. In their 20s, that is how they get love, how their mind filters love in. Remember, it's a mix of programming, it's a mix of lived experience. The mind's patterns are often dense, but I haven't found any way to really predict how dense someone's mental patterns may be. I've met 8-year-olds who are completely open-minded and pattern-free. And I've met people in their 60s and 70s who are beholden to patterns more so than they were younger. So it's not really predictable. It's totally individual. Let's not make rules or laws about it. This person is wanting material things in their 20s. In their 30s, they realize that they want love. They start interpreting their heart's frequency now, but through the filters of what's socially appropriate for their age group, a spouse, a family. In their 30s, it's all about their spouse. I must have romantic love. In their 40s, it's all about their kids' love now. I gotta have the love of my kids. In their 50s, it's all about their peers' love. And in their 60s and 70s and beyond, suddenly they realize the only love they care about is divine love. Now, funny thing. The heart was always emitting the exact same frequency. I want love. But the mind was interpreting it through different symbols. What manifestation is, my love, is honoring the symbols. Okay? It's not trying to bypass them and say, no, that's not holy, that's not sacred. Let me just skip to the end there and tell myself that all I really need is love. Well, unfortunately, that can have some tough consequences. That can actually be the opposite of self-loving. It's your choice to make, my sweet friend. Your choice to make. It still leads to expansion for all of us. So thank you. But the first zap of awareness I want to give to you in the what is manifestation question is you're bringing non-formed reality into formed reality at the level of your own evolution. At the level of your own evolution. And it is not to be judged. It is not to be judged. So don't judge other people's manifestations or desires or ideas. Don't judge your own manifestation, ideas, and desires. Instead, let your mind give you the symbols. Are you drawn toward financial stability? Are you drawn toward a soulmate relationship? Are you drawn toward the desire to nurture and raise a family? Are you drawn toward the idea of traveling the earth? Are you drawn toward the idea of being a creator, of making videos like this, of writing books, of writing screenplays, of inventing things, automobiles? Are you drawn toward leadership? Do you want to dominate? Do you want to lead large groups of people? Do you want to be on stages? Are you drawn toward renunciation? Truly, are you genuinely drawn towards saying no to the world? You'll go live in a remote location and commune with the divine. Explore and let your mind give you the symbols. You might have to do some sifting at the very early stages of this process, especially depending on how beautifully you've cultivated your relationship with yourself. Know thyself is another really valuable component of manifestation, because the better you know your internal workings, the more effectively you can use your manifestation aptitude, which we'll talk about in a minute. But sift through those symbols. Sift through them, the ones that are natural to you, and if you don't know what you want, look at where there's friction in your life. Look at what you don't like. Don't like your long commute? All right, you want to work from home. Don't like the relationship with your partner? All right, you want to change that. You either want a new partner, a new relationship approach, or maybe it's time for you to fly solo. Don't judge it. Just let it arise. You don't like the stress you see in the world? Okay, you want to be a leader who changes that. So there are multiple angles to come at it from, but sift. Sift ideally without attachment. Eventually you'll find something that you attach to, and you'll know it because it will affect your physiology. It will affect your body. It will affect your heart. It'll make your heart beat a little faster. Like, oh, they're on the frequency. Quick, give them more. It might raise some goosebumps on you. It might develop heat in different areas of your body. It might make you sweat a little bit. You might actually feel fear. You might feel cold to the touch. Your blood might drain from your face. It might challenge you. It might activate you. It might awaken you. but it will move you when you find what you want to manifest. It will move you one way or another. Any reaction is a telling reaction, whether it's with vitriol or with love, like come here, baby. Both of those mean the same thing. There's an attractor factor there. You are attached, and that may just be something that you want to manifest. The things that you feel neutral about, that you feel like genuinely, you're not pretending. Sorry, I gotta move my left leg because I can't feel it anymore. The things where you're genuinely not pretending, you just feel total neutrality. Those are the things that probably aren't meant for you to expend energy toward manifesting. There wouldn't be any value in your expansion. There are also things that you might be able to manifest pretty effortlessly without even trying. And in a learning matrix like this one, my sweet love, that's not really the point of manifestation. I know that can kind of grind the gears, especially with the popular social narrative that detachment is an essential part of manifestation. We'll talk about it. Detachment can be helpful. But my darling, when we say what is manifestation, you're bringing non-formed reality into formed reality at the level of your consciousness and your evolution. It is meant to expand you. It is meant to empower you. And it is often going to be linked to your attachments, positive or negative. Okay? So if you were just going to be a neutral battery, you wouldn't really come into a high contrast human experience like the one we're having here. What am I saying to you, baby? I'm saying love your triggers, whether they're positive and they excite you in a good way, or they scare the shit out of you. Look at those, okay? Those are going to be worth looking at in terms of what you're wanting to manifest. Now, I'm referring to my notes here, dear. Let's talk about the 2 types of manifestation styles. Okay, this is where it gets fun. This is not something that's widely popularized to my knowledge, but it's time for it to come out. I think I can move my legs again without causing immense distress. Yes, we did that well. Go. Okay, 2 types of manifestation styles. If you got a pen and paper, here's a good place to make notes. Just like there are polarities in this universe that we find ourselves in, everything's kind of on a binary. Everything's got a polarity. Here on Earth, 2025, you got the sun, you got the moon. You got masculine, you got feminine. You got yin, you got yang, or yan if you prefer. You've got shadow, you've got light. I mean, am I missing anything? Name them all. Name all the polarities. And the same is true in manifestation. Now, everyone has both energies inside of them. And it's worth mentioning that as human consciousness evolves, polarities will come closer and closer together. The gray area will expand, and the black and white, huge, vast difference between opposites will begin to fade. I don't know if this is groundbreaking information to anyone who frequents this channel, but that's the whole point. The point of human expansion is to dissolve polarity and come back into oneness. Okay. So everything you see happening socially and politically in your world that has to do with raging opposition between polarities and sides is all part of a process to eventually blend those two into indistinguishable oneness. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen in this lifetime, but we're headed in that direction. More on that another time, perhaps. So, everyone has within them the energies of both poles. Okay? So you can think positive and negative, plus, minus, feminine, masculine. It's in everyone. And every individual is so unique that the gradients and the degrees to which those energies are present vary. For some, you might see a 50-50 split. Like, whoa, that individual is very balanced between masculine and feminine, or between projective and receptive energy. In others, you might see 70-30. In others, you might see 90-10. Rare in this day and age, 2025, is it to see the manifested energy of 100% one type of thing. I'm not even sure that someone could exist in 2025 on this planet with that type of energy for a multitude of reasons. But now we're going down a rabbit hole. When it comes to manifestation, there are two types and they involve both of these energies. The ratio may vary slightly from person to person, and you get to decide which you are, but you don't get to decide for funsies. You're not putting on a costume. There is something already innate to your body, to your genetics, to your trauma, to your nature, to your nurture, to your lived experience. There's already an aptitude for one style of manifestation, okay? So even if you are a person who finds themselves to be very much like 50-50 in terms of projective energy and receptive energy, you're like this balanced gray area human being living and breathing, it's very likely you'll still have an aptitude for one of these two styles of manifestation. It's just where the energy is right now in 2025. You could be a rare exception. That's for you to figure out. But I say that to you totally with the trust that you know thyself, that you have put in the hours, the minutes of self-observation, of knowing your cycles as a human being, of knowing what causes you stress, what gives you peace, what your triggers are, what your traumas are, what your growth points are, what your dreams are. And I trust that the better you know yourself, the better you'll be able to know right away. But that's me. So let's talk about it. What are the two types? We've got the active manifester and we've got the passive manifester. La 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 la. Now, the active manifester, think of it as a projective archetype. And if you're going archaic primitive, which is actually helpful in this lesson, think masculine. It is what the masculine archetype or stereotype even has been exemplified as in terms of energy. The active manifester is a doer. They spend the majority of their manifestation process doing. The majority. So that could range from 51% to 99%. I don't do math. I hope that made sense. The majority of the active manifester's process is doing. They are in the work. We'll talk about what it takes to be an active manifester in a minute, but know that the active manifester is active. The passive manifester, if we're going archaic primitive stereotypes / archetypes again, think feminine or female. Stillness. The majority of the passive manifester's manifestation time is spent in stillness. It could be anything from 51% to 99%. I hope that math checks out. It's the majority of their time is spent in stillness. Immobile. Not doing shit. Just like this. So again, we'll talk about those in a second. But first, I want to identify for you how you know which one you are. And I've got notes for that. I've written this thing out, my love. Okay. I wrote out a lot, actually. Okay. You will know if you are an active manifestor, if you thrive in movement, if you are exhilarated by active, consistent, often repetitive action. You don't necessarily have to be running. I keep using physical movements. This doesn't mean you're running around and driving around physically, okay? It's going to be different for every individual, but for some it is physical. Some active manifestors need to be on the move. Other active manifestors are on the move in their mind. They're planning, they're plotting, they're running ahead, they're seeing it through, they're working it out, and they're churning up the idea. They're already visualizing it. Let's say like a great filmmaker, for instance. They get the idea. I'm sorry, I keep catching my hair. I'm sorry, hair. They get an idea, and then they're running with it in their mind. They're already seeing, okay, this is going to be the screenplay. This is where I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to build the world. It's going to be on location. I'm going to hire Helen Mirren. It's a whole thing. It's all coming together. This is an active manifestation process, for instance. But there are other ways too. Think of a real estate agent. They're always thinking about the house. They're thinking about the sale. They're thinking about the front end, the back end. Where do I get my commission? What am I going to sell next? And if I sell to this person, can I sell to their friend? It's this movement-oriented style of life. And you know an active manifestor because they're always on the move, even when they're not trying to manifest. They're just moving. They're happening. They are most peaceful, most grounded, and most joyful when they have a purpose that they are moving heaven and earth to get to. Okay? That is an active manifestor. Let me check the notes to make sure I got it all. Another good way to tell if you're an active manifestor or not is that you trust your efforts more than you trust random chance, more than you trust a helping hand. You trust your ability to build things, your ability to make things, your ability to create. You just trust the process, but the process as an activity. Okay? So, let that sink in for a second. There's nuance to it. We'll talk about it after we talk about passive manifestors. A passive manifestor. You know you're a passive manifestor if you get easily tired. If the doing process feels unnecessary. If the active involvement feels like a waste of your time or inefficient. You know you're a passive manifestor when your need for sleep outweighs nearly every other health requirement that your body has. You know you're a passive manifestor when you trust the forces outside of you, the universe at large, signs, synchronicities, other people, as much or even more than your ability to single-handedly and solely create the thing that you want to create, to realize your vision. You know you're a passive manifestor when, peep in the notes, when you find the most peace, the most groundedness, and the most joy in stillness and surrender. Meaning, when you're not doing the doing. That's when you're a passive manifestor. So a few fun facts about this. Both manifestation styles are equally effective when they are the ones that are attuned to your nature. Remember that you're not picking and choosing which one you like better. You're picking and choosing the one that you know to be true for you. If you're a tarot aficionado or you know a reader, you might want to ask them to help you get a clue about your natural state of being energetically. Because in a world on Earth, 2025, many of us have an idea about who we are, but don't know jack shart about our true energy. Many of us are in resistance to our true way of manifesting. So I'm going to give you a counterintuitive tip. Many passive manifestors, like myself formerly, will be in resistance to surrender and stillness because they have wounds, whether from childhood or trauma or genetic or social, around value and the fact that if they're not actively doing, they're a worthless piece of shit, to put it gracefully. Many active manifestors will resist being active manifestors because they have incredibly low self-worth and they've never created anything or been successful at creating a vision themselves. They've never had the direction or the purpose. So they resist being an active manifestor. What happens is these two start to moonlight or ghostlight or whatever the term is, fake each other out and pretend they're the other. So you have passive manifestors pretending that they're active manifestors, but they're burning themselves out. They can't do it. They can't sustain. There's no way. You ask a passive manifestor to be an active manifestor, and I'll show you a person who's constantly sick, anxious, and depressed. You ask an active manifestor to be a passive manifestor, and I'll show you a person who's interestingly also constantly sick, anxious, and depressed. It goes against the nature to try to be something that you're not. And that's why it's so important, the self-knowledge. That's why I'm trusting you, my love, to know thyself truly, madly, deeply, enough to really identify your energetic predisposition. And if you've had issues manifesting, either your whole wide life or just recently, there's a good time to evaluate or reevaluate. Is it possible for the polarities to shift in a lifetime? Sure. Anything's possible. Have I ever seen it? No. Does human biology have anything to do with it? Absolutely yes. Really interesting and good question. I said passive and active if we're primitively and archaically looking at the old archetypes of masculine and feminine, or like the baseline standards. I said they're similar to each other. And I meant that. Passive is a feminine receptive way to manifest. Active is a masculine projective way to manifest. Does that mean if you find yourself in a male or a female body, there's a good chance you're one or the other? Yes, it does. And here's why. I know that's kind of like maybe a boner killer for some. Fear not, my love. More discourse on that to come in the future as it becomes more relevant. But here's what you need to know right now. Irrespective of how you identify or what your soul feels to be true, there's also liberation and power available and inherent in acknowledging the reality of where you currently are right now. And here's why I say that. Because when it comes to the spiritual bird's eye view, a place that I spend a lot of time chilling in, physical components of the body make a difference in the spiritual experience of a life. Physical components of the body make a difference in the spiritual experience of a life. Biggest point I can make about this, biggest place that I can point this out as is relevant to this conversation is in hormones. My spiritual observations are that the hormone or the chemical of testosterone is largely adapted to an active style of manifestation. Estrogen, opposite, largely adapted to a passive style of manifestation. This is just one example of how biology and physicality can influence the spiritual experience. It's not something that we need to be scared of, shy away from, or like walk on eggshells about. It doesn't mean anything other than what it is. And what it is simply this. There's a strong likelihood that if you find yourself in a male body, you are leaning towards active manifester. If you find yourself in a female body, you're leaning towards a passive manifester. However, the introduction of hormones or of other processes can shift that. Also, where you are at stage in your life or any health experiences that you may be having that have shifted your baseline or have shifted your health either up or down could affect this. You will manifest differently, and the effectiveness will vary depending on the health and balance of your body. So take all of that into account. These statements are not meant to be anything other than what they are. Facts that you can use or dismiss. You do not have to believe or embrace them, but they're my observations offered to you as something that you can optimize for your life experience to get out of it what you want to get out of it, which is something beautiful and true for you. So, that being said, yes, biology makes a difference, but I'm not saying that's the law. I'm certain there are exceptions all over the place. Only you can know, my love. These are just basic principles to work off of. So, once you get into the vibe, let's see, I'm looking at my notes. I want to make sure I'm covering it all, my love. Okay. Once you get into the vibe and you've figured it out, whether you're an active or passive manifester, it's playtime. So by this point on your paper, you've circled which one you likely are. You've got an understanding of what manifestation is. And maybe you've scribbled down a few of the things you'd like to manifest. How do you do it? It's really simple, my love. If you're an active manifester, you'll spend the majority of your time in consistent action. We're going to use one example for both types, both styles of manifestation. You want a job that pays the moolah. You're an active manifester. You're going to spend the majority of your time crafting the perfect resume, reaching out to everyone you know and asking for recommendation letters, taking that resume in and handing it to people. Boom, 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 boom. Scheduling as many interviews as you can. And then when you're not doing that, you're going to be working it from another angle, talking to all your homies. Hey, I want a job. I want a high-paying job. I need it. I got to have it. I want it. I already know what it is. I like it. How can I start doing something for you? The current social system that we are in is really beautifully aligned to active manifestors. I'm sure you can figure out why. Active manifestation has been the foundation of what we call the modern world, in terms of, at least, economics, some social systems. So, for many, active manifestation will be going about things the traditional way, because active manifestation has been the most lauded and applauded style of living in our world for so much of recent history. So, the active manifester will spend most of their time doing what they do best, grinding. The key for an active manifester is consistency. Consistency. If you don't have an idea of how to get to what you want, for an active manifester, just do anything. But do it with your end goal in mind. Don't change the goal. Don't move the goalpost. You must select the thing you want to manifest, and then you chomp at the bit. You move your ass in that direction, and you keep moving until you get there. That's active manifestation. Where does stillness come into play for an active manifester? At the very end. Once they've achieved, or are this close to achieving, it's after they had their winning job interview. You go home, you sit down. Once you get that call, you go into stillness, you rest and recharge. An active manifester charges, rests, and enters stillness at the end of their milestone. And just foreshadowing the next one. Once they have a new goal, once they have a new vision, you're off once again. Movement again. That's an active manifester for you. Passive manifester. Whole different kettle of fucking fish. Excuse my French. It is not lauded and applauded. I'm sure you can figure out why that is. However, in a world where individuals who are attuned to the passive manifestation strategy are now afforded equal opportunity, the world is shifting to accommodate this style of manifestation. Another thing to note, the universe always has your back, baby. It always has your back. So even if the world you live in is not promising you that manifestation in this style will work for you, this is where you get to flip off the world. I'm giving the bird to my mirror. Sorry, over there. You give the world the bird and you say, look, the universe has got my back anyway. That's all I can do is know that for sure. Don't try to contort yourself into an active manifester. I mean, if you want to, you can. It is expansion for all of us. It just probably won't be very enjoyable for you. So, the passive manifester spends almost the entire process in stillness. Zippy the lippy. First, they establish what it is that they want. They get the vision. Okay, I want a job, a well-paying job, a good job. The money supports me. I have natural aptitude for it. I'm in. Once that has been established, it's chill mode. No resume. No job interviews. No begging. No forcing. You can talk about it. When I said zip the lip, I mean zip the lip in terms of don't try to talk it into existence or hint toward people to help you, indirect anything. You can express, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want. But other than that, the process ends there. It's stillness for the majority of it. All of the time leading up to the moment of action is spent growing internally in a sort of womb, if you will, of rest, internal preparation, internal expansion, trust, knowing that all is working, perhaps meditating, potentially spiritual communion. But none of this is done to force. A lot of passive manifestors are so ingrained into the active manifestation model. Understandably so, right? It's the dominant model in 2025. That they think, okay, I'll just I'll use this backdoor method where I won't do anything. I'll rest and shit, but I'm going to have all these mantras and I'm going to be praying for it really hard and I'm going to be visualizing it and going through processes and all this stuff. Baby, I got news for you. That's still active manifestation. It's not for you. So what that does is deplete your energy. Boop. It exhausts you. And it makes your ability to magnetize, which is a passive manifestor's gift, very weak. So you can't actually get anything in that way. Passive manifestation is really set it and forget it. And don't think that that's an edge to being an active manifestor. It is just as much effort expended, just a different type of effort. Where an active manifestor is penetrating aggressively through layers and layers of reality and forcing their will into form. A passive manifestor is retracting through layers and layers of already formed reality and bringing something from the void, bringing something in, magnetizing it to themselves. But that often means pulling through limiting beliefs, distractions, fear, anxiety, nervousness. It's breaking all kinds of patterns. So an active manifestor expands human consciousness and resolves karma by crushing through and forcing their law into will. And a passive manifestor retracts and breaks out of entrapment. So one implants and the other explants, if I could give that to you as a visual. One is putting it in and the other is taking it out. And they both take equal effort, just on each other's flip sides. It's polarity, baby. So with a passive manifester, you do nothing. And then when you're rested, relaxed, your nervous system's regulated, and you're attending to what brings joy, attending to what brings peace, and really creating a cocoon of safety and love around yourself, inspiration strikes. Usually just one time for one action. Oh, I should call Bob. So the passive manifester calls Bob. Bob, hey, it's Lydia. Yeah, I just wanted to catch up. I've been in the market for a job lately. I just thought I'd share that with you. I don't know, I had the urge to call you. Bob says, oh my God, Lydia, I just had a personal assistant opportunity open up and you would be perfect for it. Oh shit, I'll be there tomorrow morning. Great, see you then. Bling. And that's how passive manifestation works. Now, what we didn't see is the agony that Lydia went through protecting Lydia's space, creating a cocoon and womb of safety around Lydia's self, and putting up hella strong boundaries, saying no to the urge to do. Just as an active manifester has to say no to the urge to not do. And both, when they are feeling wounded, or when they have low self-worth, or when they are not truly integrated with their selfhood, will flip and do the opposite. An active manifester will sit on their laurels, or they will choose 1,000 different projects and not be able to commit to any of them. They'll shoot their energetic projectile at many different things, but with no intention. It's just to be in the doing. That is an active manifester who needs love so much. Needs love, needs purpose, needs direction. A passive manifester will do. They'll go into aggro mode. They will try to become the ultimate doer, validated through actions. They will have to always be speeding around. Or they might slip into a state of complete static immobility, burnt out to the degree that they can't even move. At which point, the wound is active in the passive manifester and they need love more than anything else. They need purpose, they need intention, they need direction. And both parties benefit from knowing their values, knowing their dreams, knowing their ideas, and above all, knowing themselves. The greatest manifestors among us, and I'm telling you, they're equally powerful, baby, both passive and active. The greatest manifestors among us know themselves, and they know the degree, the recipe of what the ratio is. Is it, for an active manifestor, 60% action, 40% rest? For a passive manifester, is it 90% rest, 10% action, 99% rest, 1% action? They figure it out. That's the process. Manifestation is meant to expand you, expand us, expand our world by giving you the chance to bring the unformed, unmanifested into manifested reality. You were given the gift, the ability to be able to do this. So the question is, will you love yourself enough? Will you know yourself enough to give yourself the chance to be the creator and to learn from the process, even when it doesn't necessarily pop out what you expected? That's another thing about manifestation. If you do it with your heart and you do it with the intention of growth and love, who knows what you'll get on the other side? Oftentimes it will be way better than you initially started out wanting. But the person you become and the journey on the way there, that's the gold. That's the gold mine. That's the person who becomes someone who knows himself well enough to not need rules or even guidance anymore. It's just alchemy in every stage, in every phase. And that's where you're headed, my beautiful, beloved friend. So thank you so much for joining me for, I'm checking the time, 50 minutes, baby. This masterclass on manifestation. Are you an active manifester? Or are you a passive manifester? I want to know. And if you have questions or you want to fight about it in the most loving way down below, let's go, baby. I don't really want to fight. I just want to share the love, but I want to make sure that we can illuminate any questions or illuminate where there could be sticking points or friction. Also with the understanding that where there is sticking points and where there is friction also reveals something about us, something about our belief about ourselves, our belief about identity. But if you want to know things like where does manifestation fit into the whole human experience, or if we don't have free will anyway, why bother to manifest? I mean, all that fun stuff, I'll be around. Comment it, request new videos, and we got a whole series going on here, so who knows what could be next week. But until we meet again, I am sending you, I and my assistant, this beautiful serpentine, am sending you all of the love that we've got. It is always more. It is never less. Anything that you dream, you can achieve. Simply know thyself, love thyself, and believe in thyself. And until we meet again, bye for now.